Good morning, everybody. My name's Peter Kempner. I am the Legal Director and Elderly Project Director here at Volunteers of Legal Service. And thank you all so much for joining us for this VOLS on the ground COVID-19 briefing. This is the first time we're testing out this kind of platform, and we really appreciate you all joining us today. Just to give you a brief overview of the agenda, you'll be hearing from all of our project directors and hearing about all of the work that we're doing on the ground to respond to the COVID-19 crisis for our community. I'm going to first turn it over to our development director, John, who's just going to talk a little bit about the Q&A session at the end and how to use the chat function for that.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm John Grable Herman. I'm the Director of Philanthropy and Development at VOLS. For today, however, I will be your meeting technical manager. And I should say that this is our first larger Zoom meeting for VOLS. All of us have been part of these meetings in various forms over the last few weeks. So I think that we've set everything up to work well, but there may be a couple of hiccups, and we appreciate your flexibility as we go through that. And then as Pete mentioned, we will have a presentation for the first half hour, and then we'll do Q&A. If folks have questions, we think we're encouraging of using the chat function, which should be available to you during the meeting. And as we get closer to the Q&A, what we'll do is ask people to put their questions and their name in the chat bar. When we get to that point, we'll call on folks or read their questions out loud to do the Q&A. Pete?
Great. So I'm actually going to turn it over to our Executive Director, Marcia Levy, who's going to start us off.
Okay, good morning, everybody. It's so nice to see you and nice to have such a large turnout for our Law Day COVID-19 on the ground briefing. And I just want to say a word about Law Day and why we picked this day to have the briefing. First of all, Law Day is a day in which lawyers rededicate themselves and remember their commitment to the rule of law, and particularly to the transformation of justice, transformation that is so important right now, and dedication to representing all who need access to justice. We were born on Law Day 1984 when there were cuts to legal services, and born in that crisis, 50 companies and law firms of the New York City Bar Association dedicated themselves to working with legal services pro bono in order to represent the most New Yorkers that needed assistance. And we've been doing that for 35 years through many crises, the HIV/AIDS crisis in the 1980s, through the 2008 financial crisis, and now in this crisis of COVID-19. Before I turn it over to my colleagues in VOLS, I want to tell you a story. What seems like a long time ago in another galaxy, but was actually in about October in the Bronx, Judge Mendelson of the courts and the Permanent Commission on Access to Justice held a listening tour. And it started in the Bronx. And the idea was to ask the community, what do you need? What's going on? What do you need in terms of legal services? And in that room at Hostos Community College were legal service organizations, community partners, leaders of the community, people in the legislature and the city council, and they talked about what they needed. So the first thing they said was our small businesses need help. Commercial leases are expensive. These businesses are critical to our community. They've been here for 20, 30 years. Who can help? And I raised my hand. And I said, well, VOLS can help because we have a micro enterprise project. And I proceeded to describe that. The next person who testified said, the elderly in the Bronx are really suffering. It's hard to get to them. They're sometimes isolated in their homes, and they're having difficulties with housing. Who can help? I raised my hand. I said, VOLS can help. We have an elderly project and a veterans initiative, and we help people over the age of 60, and we go to their homes. We'll do the work with them in their homes. We work with community centers. We're happy to help. The third person said immigration. That is the issue. We have tremendous number of immigrants in our community, and the laws right now are so hostile. Can anybody help? And so I started to raise my hand, and you know what I said, VOLS can help. And I talked about our DACA clinics and all the other work, special immigrant juvenile status, that we were doing with our immigrant community. I'm not going to go on now because here's the thing. In COVID-19, VOLS has raised his hand, as have our colleagues in legal service, as have our pro bono partners, and we're helping. And we want you to hear what we're seeing in the community and how we, and hopefully you, can help. So with that note, I'm going to turn it back to Pete, who's not only our legal director, but is also director of the Elderly Project and the Veterans Initiative, and our new Healthcare and Frontline Workers Life Planning Initiative. We do exhaust the guy, but he does a great job. So here he is. Pete?
Thanks, Marcia. And John, if you could just put up the slides. So I'm going to first start off by talking about our Elderly Project and Veterans Initiative. And so if folks are unfamiliar with the project, what we did before the crisis hit was we ran 10 monthly legal clinics at senior centers around the city. In addition, we also did a weekly clinic at the VA hospital in Manhattan, where we met with low-income seniors age 60 and over to provide them with legal counsel on a wide range of civil legal issues. But then the core of our work is to provide what we call life planning documents. And those are wills and other advanced directives for clients. And all of a sudden, when the crisis hit, we had to shut down all of our clinics. We had to move to a different model. We immediately launched hotlines for our senior clients and for our veteran clients. And now more than ever, our work was really at the forefront of what people needed and what people wanted. We wanted to make sure that they had the right documents in place if they ever became incapacitated. We wanted to make sure that their wishes are clear if they passed away. And we wanted to make sure that their caregivers and loved ones and the people that they trust the most were empowered to act on their behalf. And all of a sudden, there was this major barrier for us to be able to deliver our services, because not only could we not go out into the community to be able to meet our clients face to face, but we also, even after we drafted their documents, we couldn't sit down with them and execute those documents for them. And so our staff has been working tirelessly over the last month and a half to create new ways for us to deliver these services. We're taking advantage of a number of executive orders that the governor has issued with respect to virtual witnessing and virtual notarization. And there's still many barriers in place for our clients who often don't have access to the technology needed to avail themselves of these new executive orders. But nonetheless, we've developed all new sets of materials, all new model documents, instructions for clients about how to do it themselves to make sure that this vital service still is happening even when we can't meet our clients face to face. Next slide, please, John. The other thing that has happened in this crisis is we have seen so many frontline workers, especially those who work in healthcare settings, being truly put at risk. And so where we stand right now with the launching of our new VOLS COVID-19 frontline and healthcare workers is that we're setting up an intake portal. We actually last week did a training that we had 97 attorneys, volunteer attorneys attend. So now we have the attorneys ready and trained to do this work on behalf of our clients. We have all the materials in place, and we're looking to have our intake portal open really soon so we could provide this vital service to the frontline workers who are really sacrificing so much to try to serve our community, and the least that we could do is serve them as well. So I'm going to actually turn it over to Olga who's the director of our Unemployed Workers Project, to talk about that work.
Okay, and I'm going to, Olga, why don't you start speaking and I will then spotlight you once I find you.
Okay, super. Thanks, Pete and Marcia. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Before I start, I'd just like to note that today is May Day, International Workers' Day. It's a celebration of labor rights and a time to recognize all the hardworking people in our country. And with that said, the Unemployed Workers Project, which was, as you know, relaunched in response to COVID-19 crisis, is working hard to help workers during this time when they find themselves out of work due to no fault of their own. In this short time since we relaunched this project, we've partnered with firms to develop new training materials that provide advice focusing on how the CARES Act has affected unemployment insurance and how new benefits have been made available to workers and how to obtain them, especially to this new group of people that have now become eligible, which I'll talk about in a minute. So what we do, we give an opportunity to New Yorkers to receive free advice and guidance about their state unemployment insurance benefits and how to obtain them. Who do we serve? We serve workers from all industries, self-employed individuals, gig workers, independent contractors, just to name a few. For example, in the last few days, we've heard from artists, actors, a dog walker, tutors, nannies, tech workers, medical workers, delivery drivers, and that's just to name a few. How we've prepared to meet the current need and what we're doing to go beyond COVID-19. What we're doing is we maintain a high level of preparedness by analyzing and synthesizing new regulations and frequently reviewing relevant state and federal agency updates for guidance on rules and policies to be sure that we're providing the public with the most recent information. We've been working very hard to mobilize volunteers, and we've actually mobilized a team of volunteer attorneys in the short time that we've relaunched. And in the past 2 weeks, we've trained 43 attorneys who have handled approximately 80 matters by providing advice to our callers. And what we're seeing on the ground, just to let you guys know, we're seeing an influx of callers that are freelancers, independent contractors, self-employed sole proprietors, the group that I mentioned earlier that have now become eligible for unemployment insurance. And this is due to this expanded group of individuals now that qualify for unemployment insurance really don't know how to navigate this landscape. They've never been on unemployment insurance. They need guidance, they need assistance. So what are the most frequently asked questions that we're hearing? We're hearing whether I qualify for pandemic unemployment. I was told to apply, but I had many gigs or many contracts in the last year. How do I prove my income? Or how will my income be calculated if I don't have a set salary? Another typical question is from people who are immunocompromised and they're being called back to work after exhausting their sick leave. What are their rights? Will they be eligible for benefits if they refuse to go? We're also hearing from workers that are contacted by their employers and being offered to come back to work, but at a fraction of what they used to earn prior to COVID. So these are things that we're tackling right now. And these are just some examples of how we're assisting workers on a daily basis. So as you've heard, the questions range in complexity and require fact-intensive reviews on individual cases prior to provide proper advice. And one of the major immediate results we aim to achieve is to be a source of information and guidance to more families, especially those that have absolutely no income coming in right now, so they can receive these critically needed benefits. And as for the need in the long run, we're also preparing to train and restaff our hotline volunteers to be able to handle clients that will be denied benefits or where the employer is going to contest an award of benefits. And these are matters that are going to need full representations in hearings and appeals. So as I wrap up with you today, I'd like to say thank you to our hardworking volunteer attorneys and legal staff that continue to give their time and efforts in providing pro bono services. Thank you, guys. We couldn't do it without you.
Thank you, Olga. I'm going to now turn it over to Arthur, who directs our microenterprise project.
Hi, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, and I'm going to put you on the spotlight, Arthur. Here we go.
Right.
We see you now.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. My name is Arthur Katz. I'm the director of the Microenterprise Project. Our small but mighty team includes Senior Staff Attorney Evia Cardozo, our Staff Attorney Julia Curry, and our pro bono scholar Michael Harris. Our mission is to provide underserved small business owners in New York City with the pro bono legal services and education that they need in order to start and succeed in their small businesses. I want to echo Olga's sentiment that it's an impactful time to be speaking with you today because we see the confluence of Law Day, of the anniversary of the founding of VOLS, and of International Workers' Day as well. It's a day when the contributions of workers and the working class are recognized. For the Microenterprise Project, the majority of our clients are low-income women, minorities, and immigrant small business owners. And in addition, we have additional priority areas that include service to veterans, queer-owned businesses, and folks with limited English proficiency. As you're well aware, this is an unprecedented time for small business, especially in New York City. The governor's executive order New York on pause has forced the majority of our clients to shut down their operations, to lay off employees, and they've fallen behind in rent and other obligations. So when our team went remote in mid-March, we very quickly realized that we needed to identify what our clients' needs actually were. And so we sent out a comprehensive survey to 600 plus of our current and former Microenterprise Project clients to see what's going on the ground. And the reports even back then, just at the beginning of the pandemic, were rather startling. Almost 90% had reported decreases in revenue. The same amount had anticipated that they were going to be missing commercial rent payments or commercial loan payments in the future. 40% of the clients had already missed some sort of a commercial rent or loan payment. And about 90% of the commercial tenants who had begun conversations with their landlords about rent abatements or some sort of deferral or cancellation did not get a positive response. So we knew at that point that we needed to mobilize a response effort together with our pro bono partners and our community partners. And so we started in late March and early April to begin to gather research, information, resources, and send it out as widely as possible to our network of community partners and clients. We've created, in coordination with pro bono partners, a number of summary guides and resources for public governmental programs, for private grant funding, for business insurance, and for other key information for small business tenants, including videos of FAQs in English and in Spanish that were sent out to our entire network. We engage with pro bono firms and partners to create commercial tenant research support. We created practice templates for advocates for negotiating commercial lease amendments, and as well as guides for attorneys who are assisting clients with business insurance research and reviews. We're engaging a pro bono firm at the moment to research the possibility of disaster bonds that the city or the state could use in order to close the gap for the low income and minority and immigrant owned businesses that have been left out of the CARES Act and of the state and city support programs. Our commercial lease assistance program, which as many of you know, in conjunction with or funded by the City of New York, serves small business tenants in New York City. We've seen a doubling of our cases and our workload in that program. Inquiries to that program have gone up tenfold. In response, we've realized that in order to stretch our capacity and to be able to meet as many needs as possible, we've embarked on a number of rapid response collaborations with other sister organizations that do community economic development, as well as about a dozen law firms and growing, to do rapid response consultations for small business owners who need really just information and somebody to talk to, a professional, about, I apply for PPP, do I apply for emergency disaster loan? What are the grants available? What do I do with my employees? Do I qualify for unemployment now that I don't have any more employees? We're getting those questions answered at a rapid clip now with those collaborations and those pathways. We're exploring group representations for commercial tenants as well.
Because it wasn't.
It's not your fault. So now you're putting it on.
I'm going to remute everyone. And then Arthur, if you can unmute yourself.
So a number of groups have reached out to us for group representation. We're working with pro bono partners to see if we can provide that sort of advocacy, which is fairly new in New York City for commercial tenants. And we have a number of cross collaborations in the works between our projects. So we recognize everybody's hurting at the moment. Small business owners, our clients, are also workers. They're also immigrants and veterans. They're people with children. And so we're using the value in the resources that we already have at VOLS to serve all of our clients. We've already had some success stories. Our teams have gotten successful lease terminations and amendments. Our clients have reported that they've received loans and grants as a result of the consultations that they've had with our pro bono partners. Some jobs have been saved for now, but we know that there's a lot more to do, and we're still in the middle of the pandemic, and recovery is yet to come. We're engaging in advocacy as well, both at the state and the city level, for a number of bills that are really crucial for the survival and recovery of our small business community in New York City. And so as the needs for small business owners continue to shift throughout this crisis, we'll be continuing to stand by their side along with our pro bono partners to seek innovative solutions to ensure that they both survive and effectively recover from the crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. Now I'm going to turn it over to Sarah, who is our pro bono director, but also oversees our children's project.
Good morning,
Okay,
everyone.
Sarah.
I just wanted to let you know a little bit about what we've been doing with the schools and the health institutions that we work with in this project. Even before the schools shut down, we knew it was a possibility that the firms who are doing monthly legal clinics at schools would not be able to go. And in this project, pro bono lawyers help students and their families with legal issues that can impact on their ability to succeed in school. So we reached out to the firms and we reached out to the schools to let them know that since we thought that the families they work with might be adversely affected by what was going on, that we would continue to be able to respond to them and their students and families' needs by telephone. And we got a great response from the schools. They felt really supported, and then all the schools shut down. But the firms are continuing to take as needed cases and inquiries from families who need legal help at this time. And in our hospital-based and health initiative, we respond to inquiries from families who legal issues may impact on their child's health outcomes. And we have, working with two hospitals, Montefiore and with the Children's Hospital at New York Presbyterian, the Morgan Stanley Children's Hospital, and both of those hospitals continue to send cases and inquiries about families needing help to their partnered law firm. We're also working with a community-based health advocacy organization called AIR NYC that works with families affected by asthma, and they are continuing to do that as well in terms of families who need help. And our staff is providing mentorship and guidance on issues that are arising specifically in the areas of immigration and housing. So we thank the firms that have continued to provide these services, and the schools and the other institutions are very grateful for the offers of help and the ability to have some reliable source of information to call on.
Thank you, Sarah. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ellen, who's our family law advisor for our Incarcerated Mothers Law Project.
Okay. Oh, wait, here. Ellen, I'm trying to unmute you. Let's see. Is that working? We might be doing it at the same time. We see you, though.
Okay.
There you go. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for unmuting me. I'm Ellen Rosenberg, and I'm the family law advisor to the Incarcerated Mothers Law Project. I work very closely with Sarah Efron, who just spoke, and who is one of the founders of the Incarcerated Mothers Law Project. For over 20 years, the Incarcerated Mothers Law Project has been providing family law assistance and advocacy to women at New York City jails at Rikers, the New York City jail at Rikers Island, and to women at the Taconic Correctional Facility in upstate New York. Prior to the epidemic, we were visiting women and providing legal assistance, advocacy, support, information on a one-to-one basis with the support of many law firms, and also providing educational workshops to the women. as is well reported in the media, the COVID-19 pandemic has severely impacted people who are incarcerated and further isolated them. In mid-March, all in-person visiting and also all in-person programs were suspended, which means that there's further isolation of individuals who are incarcerated. For our clients, it means that they're no longer able to see their children face-to-face, see their family members face-to-face, hug their children, and really be involved. Additionally, that isolation means that it's very difficult for them to have clarity about what is going on with any family court matters that they may have, and to have access to information that's critical. In response to the COVID-19 epidemic, given that we're not able to be at the facilities in person, we have continued to keep our network of pro bono attorneys mobilized. We've tried very hard to maintain contact with facility staff and our community partners who work in the facilities along with us, but also at this point are excluded from being in the facilities doing their work. We are in the process of developing outreach by mail and utilizing other mechanisms that are available for us to communicate with women who are our clients and new clients by telephone, by non-confidential email tablets, and to make plans so that as soon as possible we're back in the facilities providing the assistance that we're committed to our clients.
Thank you, Ellen. Now I'm going to turn it over to Molly Coes, the Senior Staff Attorney with our Immigration Project.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Molly Coe. I'm a Senior Staff Attorney with the Immigration Project. Our project director, Sun-Yan Ling, couldn't be here today. But I think we are joined by Jennifer Guzman, our community advocate, and Emma Morgenstern, who's our Immigrant Justice Corps fellow and staff attorney. In the Immigration Project, we partner with schools and community-based organizations to identify people who need advice and representation on immigration matters, with a focus on providing the services to teenagers, young adults, and dreamers. When this pandemic started, I thought immediately about our clients who are among the 27,000 healthcare workers with DACA. We also represent a huge number of immigrant clients who work in pharmacies, in grocery stores, and as home care attendants. And so I will just echo that, you know, it's Law Day, of course, but it's also International Workers' Day, and our clients who are now considered essential workers have often been undervalued and underappreciated, and they unfortunately continue to feel that way now. It seems like almost all of our clients who don't work in essential roles are unemployed. We know that nationally, immigrants were the first to be heavily impacted by massive unemployment, something like 26.5 million workers, because they make up a large portion of the service industry. So our clients are servers, they are busboys, dishwashers, line cooks, and they are all unemployed. So because of that, we and the Immigration Project have had to learn a lot about unemployment claims, and we've had to do it very quickly to make sure that our clients can get access to the benefits that they're entitled to. And we are very grateful to have Olga on our team and the Unemployed Workers Project to provide that support. Unfortunately, we also have a lot of clients who do not have valid work authorization, and for that reason, they're not eligible for unemployment insurance, and they've been left out of the federal stimulus, despite, in many cases, paying taxes for years and years. We have, for example, a DACA client who has work authorization. He's got 4 U.S. citizen kids, but because he is married to his wife who is undocumented, all of them are left out of the stimulus package. And then at the same time as all of that, we have been fielding calls about the new presidential proclamation that was labeled as banning green cards for 60 days. So with that is like the background and the context of what we're trying to do. I'm incredibly proud of our team. We have been doing new intakes for clients over the phone. We have been learning ourselves and teaching our clients how to scan documents with their phones. We are making liberal use of the U.S. Postal Service to, send documents to clients, have them send documents back to us. We, we've been working with clients who, just never cease to amaze me, and they, are doing things like taking phone calls from us on really sensitive topics, like from their showers, because that's the only private space they have in their home, in order to, continue to work on their cases. So despite the fact that the courts are closed, there is a ton of work that we can do for our immigration clients remotely. And we are, in addition.
Molly, we lost your voice. It looks like you're done talking now. Pete,
I'm done. I'm done talking.
Oh, okay. There you are. Okay.
Thanks so much, Molly. I'm going to now turn it over to John Kiernan, who is a partner at Debevoise and Plimpton, is also more importantly, a real champion of pro bono and a member of the VOLS board for many years.
Hi all, is my unmuting working so I can be
Yes.
heard?
We hear you.
Well, so welcome all. I was just going to talk for a few minutes about the pro bono context that we find ourselves in. As I think everybody on this phone call knows, Chief Judge DiFiore has formed a task force that she asked former Chief Judge Lippman to chair on pro bono and legal services responses to the COVID crisis. VOLS is well represented on that task force by Marcia, and I'm also on it as well. And it's got essentially two areas of primary focus. One is the current urgent needs that exist during the shutdown at a time when courts are not fully available to help with those needs. And those include the unemployment insurance that has been discussed, PPP applications, and a whole range of other advice and assistance to small businesses, landlord issues, employment issues, wills, elderly issues, immigration, incarcerated mothers, and the other subject matter areas that have been identified that VOLS is engaged in so actively. And then the second category is this expectation that as the courts reopen, there will be a surge of needs, legal needs of the indigent that will need to get worked through what is likely to be an extremely overburdened and backlogged court system. And there will be lots of need for protection of interests in all of the most conventional essentials of life areas. And there's a lot of talk about the surge and how we're going to handle the surge. Now, on the pro bono side of this, a letter went out from the from former Chief Judge Lippman, also signed by the chairs of 3 prominent firms last week, to the heads of a lot of firms in New York, and that letter has generated a very positive response. And there's going to be a telephonic meeting on Monday from the firms. As usual, the private bar is responding positively and enthusiastically. The private bar really has quite a remarkable record of response to crises before. 9/11, Superstorm Sandy, President Trump's first travel ban, the hurricanes in Louisiana, Texas, Florida, and Puerto Rico, all have provided occasions where we had surges of volunteer work to address emergencies. It's one of the things that makes the profession a proud one. The task here is going to be to coordinate all of the volunteer goodwill, capacity, and energy, which it seems reasonable to expect we will be able to generate, with the demand in efficient ways, recognizing that many of these volunteers, as eager as they are, don't work in the subject matter areas and need training and supervision to be able to provide their pro bono assistance effectively. And of course, that coordination of supply and demand and need for assistance in getting matters and having them supervised effectively is the point of intersection that is in many ways the animating characteristic of VOLS uniquely or almost uniquely as an organization. So what we're seeing with law firms is that they are have lots of volunteer resources and willingness. By the way, that may significantly include as one piece potential resources in the form of summer associates who at many of the firms are very eager to work and are being told that they're going to get paid for a full summer of work, but there may not only be 5 or 6 weeks where they can actually work in the office, and that creates a core of potential additional volunteers beyond the usual group. What we're seeing with the legal services providers is, for a lot of good reasons, somewhat more complicated. The legal services providers want to be and have to be and should be at the forefront of the legal services response to the COVID-19 crises. As such, they're really the primary movers on the legal services response, with pro bono work providing an important but collateral and supplemental source of assistance to their full-time efforts. And for them, pro bono services of the kind we're trying to offer presents, in some measures, a challenge for organizations that will be seeing their resources stretched to the limits. The offer of a wave of eager and enthusiastic but unsupervised and untrained and often inexperienced people can present kind of a mixed blessing and can threaten to overcome or overwhelm their energies. And if you have any uncertainty about this, just say to any legal services provider you know, so how would you like me to provide you 100 or maybe 500 volunteers for a month this summer? And they kind of blanch at the stampede and about how to handle it and whether it would actually interfere with their accomplishment of the most effective work. So a lot of appropriate attention is getting focused on how best to mix these volunteer resources with the sources of representations and supervision in ways that work. And a few models are emerging. So I'll identify 3, and then you can then answer some of your questions. The first I would describe as basic retail level. The analogy for back when we were doing the hurricane relief was people that help victims fill out FEMA applications. And the closest analogy now is the great work that the State Bar is doing with unemployment insurance applications to an overwhelmed Department of Labor. And this hasn't yet reached the point of VOLS's particular expertise, which over the years, which has been appealing from denials of unemployment insurance benefits, where VOLS lawyering has had transformative effects on success rates. And as Olga mentioned, we'll be doing that too, but there's also this first wave of getting the applications in. And that involves taking a very large number of people, training them, and there's been over 1,500 people trained by the State Bar on how to help advise somebody on how to fill out an unemployment insurance application, provide very brief legal advice on the telephone, direct them to the agencies they should be talking with for more information. It's very retail, it's unglamorous, it's large numbers, doesn't require a tremendous amount of supervision. It's basically hotline work, and you don't need a tremendous amount of legal skill or experience to do it, but it's vital. And that's been category 1 of matching supply and demand. Category 2 is what I would describe as the VOLS model that very few organizations can provide, which is one where the organization provides the training and has people on staff who have the expertise, but who not only have the expertise, but have an orientation towards using that expertise, not just to perform the primary legal work themselves, but to leverage it by providing training, supervision, and oversight to volunteers. And that, of course, is what VOLS is all about. It gives VOLS an edge. Most legal services organizations don't have that institutional orientation to use its skilled staff's capabilities in this leveraged way, but that's kind of exactly what is needed at this time of increased volunteerism. And so the VOLS model is going to be a very important one as we're trying to do this matching going forward. The third I would describe as the firm team models. And that's the notion that instead of a firm saying, so we'll send you 30 junior associates and summer associates, the firms actually generate within themselves teams that have conventional pyramidal structures where junior lawyers and summer associates are working together with more senior lawyers and partners who also get trained in the substantive areas and who provide some of the supervision and oversight that the legal services organizations aren't able to spend as much resources to provide. And it's such that legal services organizations really can hand off large chunks of representations to the firms. That's one that isn't really in place now, but I think there's going to be a lot of conversation in the next few weeks about developing that firm structure as model 3 for thinking about it. But others on this call may have other ideas about how to accomplish this mixing of pro bono instinct and legal services provider resources, but also worry about getting overwhelmed. Because that, I think, is the real challenge to making this pro bono effort work as effectively as it could. Thanks all.
Thank you so much, John. So now is the time for Q&A. And I know that our John had posted in the chat box that anybody who has questions should post there. I see that there's already a couple questions. The first one is actually aimed towards my work, so I'll take that first. And that is, our life planning services available to persons under 60. And so right now, our traditional model has been to only serve folks over 60 with this service. But because we're launching the Frontline and Healthcare Workers Initiative, that service will be available to somebody regardless of their age. So long as they are a frontline worker impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. Right now we're focusing on healthcare workers, but we acknowledge that there are so many others, delivery workers, supermarket workers, and so many others who are also on the front line serving the community during this time. And so stay tuned that when we have our intake portal open and we have our team of volunteers working to see how expansive we will serve that. And I want to do something really quick, and I got cut off earlier, and I apologize for that. I just want to also acknowledge the hard work of the 2 staff attorneys in the Elderly Project and Veterans Initiative, Alyssa Villarreal and Jess Penkoff, for what they've been doing to get those materials together. The next question is for Arthur, and I'm actually going to turn it over to John to do the reading of the questions.
Sure. And for everyone, first off, did the slide that I had on just disappear? I'll just turn the screen share off. Okay. We're at 10:48, and we'll do probably about 2 questions so we can wrap up by 5 of, and then close out the meeting for 11. I was thinking of calling on folks, but just given the time, I'm going to read out a question for Arthur from Kelly Donahue, and if I pronounce your last name wrong, Kelly, I apologize. Arthur, you mentioned that there are lobbying for certain bills that will support small business relief, and I was hoping you could elaborate on which bills these are and what the impact of having them passed will be. So Arthur,
Sure.
we'll call on you.
Yeah, good question. We're following a number of bills, both in Albany and in the City Council. In Albany, Senator Gianaris has introduced a cancel rent bill that would cancel rent for residential and commercial tenants throughout the pendency of New York on pause. And Assemblymember Bobby Carroll has introduced legislation that would waive any virus exclusions that are in business insurance policies or business interruption insurance policies, which exist in the vast majority of our clients' cases where we've looked at them. They were kind of put in there shortly after the SARS outbreak in the mid-2000s, and so now they essentially leave out any opportunity for our clients to file claims under the current pandemic situation. Interestingly, they're still getting bills for those insurance policies to pay their premiums, even though they can't actually get any cash out of them at the moment. So those are the two bills we're following at Albany. And then at the city level, there were two council meetings, council sessions this week. One with the Department of Consumer Affairs that I was hearing a bill of, it's the Committee of Department of Community Affairs on extending the eviction moratorium within New York City for both residential and commercial tenants through through April 2021, to give a little bit more breathing room. We don't know when the pandemic is going to be over, so that would give both residential and commercial tenants a little bit more breathing room before they would have to worry about eviction. There's a proposal by the Small Business Committee too, actually, that we're following. One would expand the definition of harassment by landlords to include harassing on the basis of being a COVID-affected business. And another one would suspend personal liability on personal guarantees for commercial tenants, for commercial leases that have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. There was a lot of animated discussion about whether this is constitutional at the committee hearings, whether it's a good idea. It should come as no surprise that I think it's constitutional. I think that we have home rule. I think this qualifies as an emergency situation. If these measures aren't put into place, we risk wiping small businesses off the map in New York City altogether. Even in the best of days, small businesses had it really, really difficult. We're looking at this legislation as really the life support that the businesses need in order to come out and survive.
And this is Marcia, if I can just add in, Arthur, if this is okay, but the city and the state, both are putting out budgets, and in the city budgets, there's cuts to the small business services, which are essential for the businesses that we represent, including the commercial lease assistance program, which we hope, will continue to be supported and even increase at this time because there's so much need for that kind of assistance. So we're also putting in, testimony when we can and reaching out to our supporters, and we hope you will all do the same. So back to you, John.
Great. And Arthur, while we have you, I'm going to just ask a follow-up question from Cora Fung, who thanks you for your pro bono work. And there's a number of similar resources available for small business owners. Should one just call each organization to see who can take their case, or are only low-income, minority, or women eligible for your service? Just advise on who should call and who should call whom.
Right, so this is an ongoing discussion both at VOLS and I understand a number of other sister organizations that do community economic development work. Traditionally, our criteria, our eligibility criteria, focused on folks who were within 500% of the federal poverty guidelines. That has changed, of course, because folks who may not have qualified in 2019 have had their businesses completely shut down and decimated, probably qualify based upon 2020 numbers. It's kind of a shifting paradigm at the moment. We're balancing the need with the resources available through our on-staff and pro bono networks. We are taking into account whether a particular business at the moment would fall within our criteria. So please, I would err on the side of reaching out to us if you have business owners that you feel could benefit from our legal services and other technical assistance. And we'll do a screening and determine at that moment whether we have capacity to take them on.
And if I could just add, one of the things that, the legal service community in New York and New York State is very close. If you call us and we don't feel like we can help you, we'll tell you if we think that there's somebody who can. And certainly the other organizations will as well. And I know we're out of time. I know there are a few more questions, but I do want to say something because I feel passionately about it. And I've got an audience of 82 to say it. I think that legal service workers and our pro bono partners are essential during this pandemic. And we are and will be on the front line. Courts will reopen, jails will reopen, legal service lawyers will go to the places they need to go to represent their client. They will take the risks just like other healthcare and frontline workers are doing, because we feel passionately about access to justice and the need for our clients to have a legal voice that can help them through whatever systems they're working through. So if all of you out there listening are volunteers, then I hope you'll raise your hand. Remember, I was raising it at the beginning, and I hope you will raise your hand for legal services, for volunteerism, and come and work with us. If you're community organizations or clients, our motto is we work with over 200 community organizations. Please call us, raise your hand, come join us. And if we can't help you, we will find out who can. This is critical. And I'll say one other thing. This is not a fundraiser. So I'm going to say this in general for all of you out there. Tuesday is Giving Day, Giving Tuesday. And it's a time to support the nonprofits you care about. It might be VOLS, but it might be something else, or it might be a number of organizations, and the stimulus package has made it a little easier to donate and take the deduction. So I just ask you to think about the work that we're doing, and we're at risk as well as small businesses, of losing funding and not being able to do the good work that we do. So I really hope you'll think about your favorite charity, make a donation, and volunteer. Call us if you're a community member. We really look forward to working together and getting through this together, because it's what makes us strong as a society. It makes us strong as a city. So